ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my September book haul. I was actually doing really well on the book buying front the first half of September. By well, I meant I hadn't bought any new books at all and I've been reading a lot of things that I'd already owned. Somewhere right in the middle of September, I got the urge to quell my currently unread selection. And every time I do that, I feel the urge to go out and sell them back to the bookstore so they can get some cash to, you know, buy new books. So that's exactly what I did. I did end up reducing my TBR overall, so I think that that's a win. But the first book that I have to show you is a book that I've already showed on this channel, but I technically haven't hauled it yet, and it is Colorless, Sakura Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage by Haruki Murakami. If you missed the beautiful display of this book during my September TBR, I will give you a little sneak peek. This is the outside dust jacket, and this is the inside. A big factor in the purchasing of this book was the aesthetic value. Like, I just couldn't resist this once I saw it in the stores. This is about a middle-aged man who during his younger years had been part of a very tight-knit group of friends who all coincidentally had colors within their names and he did not. So he felt kind of dull and left out, partially because of this and partially just because of who he is as a person. But one day they totally separated themselves from him and he just accepted it and moved on with his life. But as he's gotten older, he has gotten into a relationship with someone who urges him to go back and deal with all the traumatic events in his life, one of them being his separation from this tight group of friends. And essentially that is the premise of this book. I have since heard some mixed things about this book. I am glad to own this and have it on my shelf, but it will probably not be the next Murakami that I read, but I definitely look forward to having it on my shelf and reading it sometime in the future. As I mentioned, I quelled my book collection and took about 15 books out of my collection and was able to sell about 10 of them and got $12 back. I added a little bit of money into that pot and purchased these books. The main book that I was looking for when I was going on this trip was We Are All Beside Ourselves by Karen Joy Fowler. This book came onto my radar first when it was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize, which I have suddenly become a little more interested in big literary awards. I don't put all of my stock in them, but I do find it quite interesting to see what books end up on the list, and this was one of them that I hadn't really heard anything about, and it instantly piqued my interest. I also was pushed over the edge to buy this book by two reviewers, one being Katie from Effusions of Wit and the other being Dee Dee from Frenchie D. The synopsis of this book is kind of vague. There's the one that's on the back of this book and there's also the one that's on Goodreads. Although I'm going to say is I get the impression that this book is a very dramatic family drama. I believe that it kind of starts in the middle, and so you get to see the story from a different traditional way, and that really piqued my interest. And it's also been described as heart-wrenching, which is kind of a buzzword of mine. I enjoy books that break your heart. So I'm really looking forward to this. The funny thing about this book is that after I heard Dee Dee's review, I was so intent on picking this up that I requested it from my interlibrary loan department and forgot that I had done that, and then went and purchased it, and then when I came back to work at the library, it was waiting for me. So I am, needless to say, very ready and excited to read this book. And the next book was also inspired by Dee Dee over at Frenchie D, and it is Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This book has been on my radar for quite some time, but it was kind of an impulsive buy. They were having a deal where you could buy two full-priced brand new paperbacks for $10 each, and I realized that We Were All Completely Beside Ourselves, but I didn't have any other new paperbacks that weren't used and weren't discounted already, and I saw this one and was like, you know what, I think it's time for me to own this. And I really liked this edition and the floppiness of it, but I believe that it is a love story that spans over continents. It tells the story of two young Nigerian people, one who moves to America to pursue a career and the other that stays behind. I've heard somewhat mixed things, but mostly really wonderful things, and I'm excited to form my own opinion about this book, and also excited to read a book that's not from a perspective that I traditionally read from. The next book that I purchased on that day was The Girl Who Fell Beneath Fairyland and Led the Revels There by Catherine M. Valente. This is the second book in the Fairyland series. The first book being The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in the Ship of Her Own Making. I read this a few weeks ago and absolutely fell in love with it. It's one of my new favorite books. And when I saw this there, it was a used copy, but it was only $3.75. Although it doesn't match my current edition, I'm very glad to add it to my collection. I'm really excited to share my love of this story with you guys in the future whenever I get around to the book talk for it, and I can't wait to continue on in the series. The next next book that I picked up is also, I believe, considered children or young adult fiction, and it is Howls Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I actually already had owned a copy of this, but it was an old hardback withdrawn from the library edition, and I just prefer reading in paperback, so when I saw this used edition there for $3, I had to pick it up. I watched the absolutely glorious animated film adaptation of this several years ago and absolutely loved it. So when I found out that it was adapted from a book, I knew that I had to read it, but I never got around to it, which I think will actually work in its favor because it's been a couple of years since I've seen the movie and they'll be completely separate entities to me. If I remember correctly, this tells the story of a young woman who gets cursed by a witch. This curse turns her into an old lady, and the only way to reverse this curse is to deal with Howl, and Howl's kind of a jerk. She also, along the way, must make a bargain with a fire demon and again deal with the witch that put this awful curse on her. Especially after reading the first book in the Fairyland series, I'm really open to reading something like this, and I'm hoping that I can get to it soon so I can have an excuse to rewatch the movie, of course, after reading this book. And the last book that I picked up in the bookstore was completely also impulsive, but when I saw this edition, I couldn't resist, even though I had no huge desire to read this book in the past. I couldn't resist, and it is Telegraph Avenue by Michael Chabon. This is from the Harper Perennial Olive editions, which after some research I discovered are limited edition paperbacks that they release every year. So they take popular adult fiction or popular modern classics and adapt them into these beautiful mass market paperback editions, which, if you don't know about me, I kind of love mass market paperbacks. I love the size and the compactness of them. I like the way that they fit into a bag or feel when you carry them around. But rarely do you see this kind of detail given to the actual design of a mass market paperback. They're usually just something cheaply thrown together and put out. So when I saw this, I knew that I had to have it. It's also limited edition, and it looks really lovely. I do have another Michael Chabon on my shelf, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, that I hope to read first, but I'm glad to add this to my collection. I believe that it is a family drama. I think that it centers around two men who own a starting to fail vinyl shop. Their business is especially in jeopardy after a huge megastore is announced to be coming into their area. Also, their wives are in a business together, and there's some drama that goes on there in addition to other family related drama. Like I said, I do hope to read the other Chabon first because I have heard some mixed things about this, but I do remember John Green recommending this book in one of his videos a couple of years ago after it came back, and I've never been totally disappointed by anything that I've read on his recommendations. So I'm glad to have this book on my shelf, even if it's a little while before I actually read it. It's gorgeous, and I hope that I can collect more from this edition as they make them. Okay, so those were all of the physical books that I purchased. I did get my hands on 2 ebooks during the month of September. The first one I actually discovered for free, and it is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This had been on my radar for a while as well. It had been in my wish list for quite a while. It was pretty cheap to begin with on Kindle, but I was gonna wait to get it, but when I saw that it was free, I went ahead and got it. I also have Mistborn and Steelheart on here as well. I plan on reading one of those first because I've heard that the Stormlight Archive isn't the best place to begin with Sanderson, but I couldn't resist it because it was totally free. If you're unaware, this is the start of a new epic fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson. I believe it's supposed to be 10 books long in the end. I don't know when I'll get around to reading this, but it's cool to have this huge tome of a book in this little device for freezies. The second book that I got on my Kindle was The Girl Who Ruled Fairyland for a Little While by Catherine M. Valente. This is a little novella that is a prequel to the series. I actually kind of forgot that I had gotten this during the month of September, so this is a friendly reminder that I have this and that I can read this. I'm kind of excited because, like I said, I did fall in love with the first book, and this deals with something that we learned towards the end of the first book. So I'm excited to get to this now that I remember that I have it, and it was only 99 cents. So those are all of the books that I purchased during the month of September. I did get a really cute little bookish treat today that I would also like to show you. What I'm about to show you, I first heard about from Jillian over at Bookish and Nerdy. She showed off these absolutely adorable magnetic bookmarks that she found on Etsy. I highly recommend that you check out this shop. The day that I heard about it from Jillian, I put in 2 orders at this shop. One of them was for a very dear friend of mine, and I tried to be good and just buy the gift, but I could not resist the cuteness, so I went ahead and purchased some of my own. This Etsy shop makes a variety of different magnetic bookmarks based on different fandoms and just cute things in general. I couldn't pick one of their sets that included like all from one fandom, so I kind of mixed and matched. I got 2 from the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise and 1 from Harry Potter. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you these adorable things right now. I got Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy, a baby dancing Groot, and Severus Snape from Harry Potter. The great thing about these is that I've had magnetic bookmarks before, but they're usually the same on both sides, but these are not. I love that the Star-Lord one has him with his mask and without his mask, and that they put the detail into doing the backs of the other characters. It's absolutely adorable, and I'm so glad that Jillian mentioned these in her video. It probably won't be the last time that I check out that shop and buy bookmarks, because they're so freaking adorable. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a small person, and this is smaller than my small little hand. I definitely recommend that you check these out. I haven't got a chance to use them yet, obviously, but I highly recommend it. I will leave a link to that Etsy shop down below. So that is all that I have to share with you for my September book haul. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, if you have any comments on any of the books that I shared here today, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!